If you have a Proform HIIT trainer or possibly an elliptical that uses resistance motor 411461, you may find this video helpful. This is the label off the bad motor that I'm replacing today, and this is what the new motor looks like. One difference in these newer motors was this adapter that they added. They must have changed the plug at some point, but the connector that works on my Proform is this white end here, and they've got some other type of red connector in there. When I was shopping for motors, I saw some that had just that red connector, but for my particular unit I needed the one with the white connector there. Some of the tools you'll need for this project include a Phillips head screwdriver that's at least 6 inches long. I use some trim panel tools to help bust apart the trim on the machine. A stubby Phillips head, an Allen wrench, I think it's a number 3, and if you want to get more in depth you can use a voltmeter to test to make sure your panel is outputting the correct power. The first thing I did to look into this issue was remove this panel off the side of the machine. At that point you can get access to where the motor is, but unfortunately it's deep inside the machine. Peering into that opening you can see the motor right there. You can barely get one hand in there. I was able to get a hand in there, and you can see where I pulled the plug apart right there to the motor. So if you're having a problem with resistance on your machine not adjusting, the first thing I would recommend trying is checking the voltage on the pins coming out of the connector that's going up to your control panel. That's the upper connector, and you're going to want to check the blue and the yellow wires to make sure they have somewhere around 5 or 6 volts when the resistance is changing. You can see the top of the plug there where you can see the yellow and the blue wires that you would need to check the voltage on, and you can stick your voltmeter in on the pins at the end there to measure that voltage. You want to probably validate that your control panel is working properly before you go into removing the rest of the machine to get access to that motor. If you decide or determine that you need to replace your motor, one thing you're going to have to do is get that metal plate with that arm in there removed. This arm can be disconnected by removing that small screw in the middle of the disc, and at that point it just slides off real easy. I was able to get in through the side panel with one hand using a stubby Phillips screwdriver. Here's a view from the other side of the machine showing the other side of the motor. You can remove the clip and pull the whole cable through on this side to get access to it and remove it when you're ready. So to replace the motor on the machine, you're going to have to remove a lot of panel pieces to get access. The first one is this trim piece that goes around the metal wheel. Has the Allen screws in there, so you can remove those screws, and then that piece pops off. And then the rest of the screws you can remove. This is where you'll need the 6-inch or longer Phillips head screwdriver and remove all the screws from the holes around the machine. And there's 2 different size screws. That's why I have different labels on there, so I make sure I get the right screw back in the right spot. And that's what those screws look like. You can see looks like 3 longer ones and the rest are short. I also went and removed this top piece just so I wasn't putting too much pressure when I split this apart. So you might want to pull that panel off also. And then on that I just labeled the screws just to keep them right there, so I make sure I get the right screws back in the right spot. And then the fun work becomes trying to split this without causing any damage to the machine. And this is where I ended up using the automotive trim tools. And you can see here the type of clips that you're trying to reach for with the tool to pop undone. So normally that's squeezed together, and you just have to try to fit this in there and work your way down and start finding where some of those clips are so you can try and pop them apart. And you got to do that all the way down to the bottom. I could tell when I was doing mine that some of the plastic clips must have been breaking as I with splitting it apart. So I would recommend being as careful as you can at that part, but it is a little tricky at times. So it does require a little bit of force in order to be able to split that. And thankfully, that's as far as I had to go with removing this whole panel. I didn't have to pull it all the way off the machine, because at this point I was able to get it wide enough that I could get in there with one hand while having a second hand in that opening to be able to work and get to that motor. And here's a little bit better view. When I split it apart, you can see that that motor then is straight ahead when you split the pieces apart. At that point, you can get a screwdriver in there, get to the 4 black screws. There's 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top. The ones on the right side have a little slot in them so that you don't need to remove those screws all the way, but the ones on the left, you'll have to pull the 2 on the left all the way out. So looking at the new motor on the right side, you can see what I was talking about, how it has the slots, so it'll slide in the screw as long as you just loosen them a little bit. But the left side there has the complete hole that you'll have to pull the screw all the way out. This is the side that the motor turns, and this is what raises and lowers that metal arm that we removed earlier with the stubby screwdriver. But that's what it looks like with the disc and the arm removed from it. So this is the bad motor I had to remove from my machine. If you watched the video earlier, you saw that the little pigtail they added to that new motor. This is what the original looked like with the white connector and no pigtail on it. Just for fun, I decided I'd shoot a little video of taking the motor apart so you can see what's inside of this. No idea why they're so expensive, because there's really not that much to it. So to take it apart, there's 2 screws here, and then 2 screws on either side there holding the motor in. I'll remove those and be back in a moment. With the screws removed, you can start sliding it apart. You can see on the bottom here, it's got this little piece that kind of fits like a channel around the base. So you have to slide it off from that side, and then that's what the inside of it looks like. Just some gears. This top part is for that silver on the other side with the red and white wires coming out. From what I've read, that's what's providing the feedback on the resistance level that the machine is reading from the motor. But then, there's the motor itself. I wasn't able to determine what was actually wrong with mine, other than just simply wasn't able to adjust the resistance anymore. When I hooked it up to the machine with the motor removed, the motor would spin, and I'm able to turn the gears by hand. It's just when the 2 things fit together, it wasn't working properly, so I don't know if the motor just doesn't want to work under load or what. But when I replaced it with the new motor, everything on the machine worked perfect, so I know this was the problem part. I just don't know exactly which area. There's a lot of grease in here, and then from here you can just slide out the gears if you want. There's just 2 little clips that hold this piece in, and then the rest of the gears can slide out, so you can play around. It's a little bit of a puzzle to get it back together to make sure you have the right orientation on the gears in there. Like I said, mine spins freely without the motor in there, and the motor itself, like I said, would spin when connected to the machine, and it was calling to change resistance. This would spin, but when the 2 are together, it just wouldn't work anymore. But hope that helps somebody out there. I enjoyed taking it apart just to see what the inside looked like. I hadn't seen any other video yet, so hope you appreciate it. Thanks.